All right, it is Tuesday night, and that means another episode, at least for now, of Goal Hardens and Fight Songs. It depends on when Wes has to take a little break. But Wes, we saw some expected things this weekend and some unexpected things this weekend happen in the conference. It was again, we had a little bit of everything, but you never know with watching the NCHC.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of alluded to it last week. We said anybody could win on every weekend, and the number one spot has not been a safe spot for any team that's held it down this week or this year. And we saw that again, this weekend with a big sweep by Minnesota Duluth, who had been on a little bit of a slide, but now they're on a 3-game winning streak. So split last series with North Dakota, got them going, and they pick up a big sweep against the number one ranked team in the country in St. Cloud.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of fun to watch. But again, and we can dive a little more after or into it after. But that first game, I mean, actually, kind of even the second game, we always say it every weekend: stay out of the box. And St. Cloud didn't do that, and that really hurt them, especially in that first game.
I mean, that's kind of been their methodology all year. You see the more time they spend on the PK, the more likely they are to lose those games. They had the same problem with Western earlier this year. They played from behind the first game because they wouldn't stay out of the box. The second night they kept their penalties under control and fared better. Not so much the case this year this weekend as they were in the penalty box quite a bit on both nights.
Yeah, they were. And then we saw kind of an odd series that we talked about it last week, where you have Denver and Colorado College playing one game at Ball Arena on Friday night, and then we have to wait until Saturday to get the sequel to that game. It was just kind of it was a weird weekend almost, just with scheduling and then everything that happened.
Yeah, I mean it's a light schedule this week. We'll get to that later. But
Hmm.
I mean, I guess it was a good turnout for the game there at what was formerly, I believe it was formerly Pepsi Arena. I'm not sure if it's actually the same arena, but I do know that it is where the Avs play now. I don't know if it was just
Yeah,
a name change or if it's a more
yeah,
than that.
it was just a name change. And I think Denver did have their PA announcer, from what I could hear. Um, Typically for Avs games, it's Alan Roach, who a lot of people won't know his name, but everybody will know him from Super Bowls and the Madden PA announcer. And he's the Vikings PA announcer. He's from Minnesota, but he also does Avs games and Colorado Rapids, I think. And he's done some World Cup and Olympics and everything like that. But it's a little strange to, like, I forgot that they were playing at Ball Arena for a minute. I looked, I'm like, damn, Denver's arena is huge. Oh, wait, that's right. They're playing at an NHL arena.
Yeah, they'll be back to a little bit smaller confines of Ed Robeson Arena this weekend. So back to the normal digs. But I mean, it's still a tight series out there. I think it's closer than a lot of people expect it to be this year
Hmm.
with the way teams are playing. A 2-0 game. I believe this was the result this weekend. I think I saw that this was the fifth straight. Was it the fifth straight shutout that Denver has had over Colorado College? I believe was what I
I
saw.
I know they were talking about it in Corona's shutout streak against Colorado College. Um, and honestly, watching that game, Denver probably should have won a lot bigger. Umberco played out of his mind, which, it's starting to become habit, saying he played out of his mind, that we should just expect it. It it should not be a phrase anymore, just to realize how good this kid is.
No, and
because
he made such a great save that the even the guy working the goal horn wasn't sure if he made the save or the goal was allowed.
yeah, I mean, they were throwing on the goal horn, and the the kid who shot it, I can't remember who exactly shot it, because they were talking about one of his junior's teammates and um then a World Juniors teammate who plays for Denver and him scoring, but I think he made the pass and Berko made the save. The kid who shot it from Denver was like, "I didn't score," and the goal horn operator was like, "Hey, that's a goal." It was like, "No, no, it wasn't. It wasn't even close."
Yeah, last time CC scored a goal on Magnus was or against Denver was February 25th, 2021.
Dang.
So, not a lot of offense going on for the Tigers against Denver, but I think they're a team that's still on the up. They do have that dangerous power play shooter in Hunter McCown, so you still got to stay out of the box there because they can be dangerous on the power play. They seem to have a goalie in Emberko. He's definitely making a push to be considered one of the top goalies in the conference right now. Even
In the
if
country.
even though Colorado is slipping a little bit here lately, but I think he's still going to develop and get better. I think the team's going to get it better, and it's literally his first year, so we'll see how they improve the rest of this year and into next year.
Yeah, I think they can heavily recruit more scoring, and I think we knew this coming into this year that they were not going to be as high powered offensively. We didn't know what their goaltending situation was going to be. Now that we're this far into the season, we know that their goaltending situation is solid. Unless Emberko decides to leave, then they're probably screwed. Um, but if he decides to stay for another year or two, they can build around him and then develop another goalie behind him and recruit him, let him learn behind Emberko, move forward, and then they can develop that offense because that's been their Achilles heel for the most part. If teams are playing them even strength and putting up, well, 2 goals like this, 2, 3 goals, which is really tough to do against Emberko, they don't have that offensive prowess that they do unless they can draw you into penalties and get you shorthanded.
Yeah. So, like I said, the team's on definitely improving from even last year to this year. There's been some steady improvement there. You can't necessarily call them the bottom dwellers anymore. That spot is securely held by Miami, at least for the foreseeable future of this season. Their struggles continued
Yeah.
once again. They are swept. They are once again shut out. At least one game. I believe this is 4 out of 6 games they've been shut out, at least in their last 6. Um, the Rider pulls the shutout for UND, picking up his third of the season, earning Cole Goalie of the Week status for what he did. I mean, I guess the fact that he swept Miami is what puts him there. Um, he does have 3 shutouts on the year, including this one, Holy Cross and WMU being his other ones. But at this point, who hasn't shut out Miami? Well, Western hasn't. We gave up a couple goals to the game, but we also scored like 16 on them or something
Yeah.
ridiculous like that. So,
I don't
um,
think I don't think we did either, but they might also be our one and only.
but Miami is also one of those teams that can surprise you. They've been extremely inconsistent. They've got a shutout win over St. Cloud. I believe a shutout win might have been over North Dakota earlier this year. Um, they're a team that sometimes they can win games, sometimes they don't. More often than not, they don't, and they
Yeah, more
haven't.
often than not. Yeah, they're
I know they have a 4-3 win over North Dakota in North Dakota.
and
Um,
that's the thing that
what's the other one?
it bothers me about that team is they have the talent to win, they just don't use it.
they're just not
They,
consistent enough to really be competitive in the NCHC. At least they haven't been lately. I mean, this is a team that I believe came out and won the Penrose or the conference tournament, like one of the first years of the conference, and it's just kind of
I
been
think I think they were the first year.
downhill since then. Let me double check it, but I know they were definitely they were definitely more competitive that first season.
Yeah, it's either year one or two, and you know, at this point, you don't wonder if it's a coaching issue where they're not progressing because they have the talent. They have a goaltender that's, I mean, he's doing everything he can. You have Red Savage. You have, um, oh, was it Dashke that came to UMD, like a very solid defenseman who's become a mainstay and one of our best defensemen here. You have the talent. There's something that's not going right, and it might be a coaching issue at this point where they can't stay consistent enough. And it's one thing if you're losing games, 3-2, 2-1, going to overtime with different teams. You let a team like North Dakota build a snowman on you right now, that's not good.
No,
And and
and they do not have an
it,
easy schedule ahead of them either.
no, they don't. Um, and the well, there is really no easy schedule, especially this year in the NCHC, other than playing Miami. But I there's certain times when the term fired needs to be used, and there's certain times when you just need to use the phrase a change needs to be made. And I think this is a time where the coach doesn't need to be fired. I just think a change needs to be made, which I mean they mean the same thing, but it's just the
They
optics and the sound of everything.
they won the tournament in 2014, 2015, so the second year
Okay,
of
the
the
second year.
conference. But only three schools have won the regular season. North Dakota, St. Cloud, and Denver are the only three Penrose winners. So
Yeah, that seems about right.
there's that. Only one Penrose winner has won the tournament. That being North Dakota, which I don't know if we really want to count because it was the COVID year where all the games were played in North Dakota. But, that's a little.
I
So
mean,
winning the Penrose doesn't necessarily mean much when it comes to tournament time, and anybody can sneak in there and win it. I mean, Duluth was a 5 seed to win it last year, so no reason to panic on your seeding at the moment.
no, not at all. The only thing with the seeding is now we would be facing off against each other if it were to start on Friday, and Colorado College went from third all the way down to seventh.
Yeah, Colorado College is taking a little bit of a tumble. Well, I mean that kind of goes into what we were saying. Just any given weekend. A little bit more on that Miami game, though. Reese Garber records the first hat trick for North Dakota since 2018. They were on a bit of a snide
Jesus.
of having a 3-goal scorer in a game, so he picks up that honor as well as forward of the week for his performance. This is at least the third hat trick that has been scored on Miami that I know of. I haven't really been following too hard to know that, but I do know that Jason Poland's first two of the season
I was gonna say.
were recorded on Miami. Handing out hats and shutouts is Miami right now. Western and Nebraska Omaha split. I think we kind of thought that might be the case, not necessarily worst case scenario for either team there, really.
Mm-hmm.
The big helper was Minnesota beating St. Cloud. It keeps them a little bit closer in the standings. Lets everybody kind of gain on Denver a little bit with them only playing the one game. But right now the standings are Denver in first with 32 points, Omaha in second with 30 points, St. Cloud in third with 29, Western the last home seed, home ice spot right now at 28 points, Duluth in fifth with 22, North Dakota 21, Colorado College 20, and Miami bringing up the bottom with 7 conference points. So still a lot to do. I mean, there's a lot that can get shuffled there. It does kind of seem like it feels like it's two
It's too early
two
to
races. There seems to be a race in the bottom half and a race in the top half, but yeah, it's definitely too early to call.
Yeah, especially with the schedules coming up for basically all teams in the top.
And I mean, so we've got a couple.
Well, the top 7, I should say.
Yeah. While we're talking about Western and Nebraska here, we got a couple of comments. We'll go with the second one first. Omaha really shut Western down defensively on Saturday. It's hard to say, really, that's what happened. I think we just ran into a decent goaltender. I think we still put up, I want to say close to over 30 shots on goal. We had a few offensive possessions. We just weren't getting guys to the net, which seemed to be an issue with the Western team. I will say that Nebraska did do a very good job of limiting the transition game, which Western has been extremely dangerous when that's going. And Duluth did a pretty good job of containing that transition game here in Kalamazoo. The first, well, after that
Omaha.
first, no, I know what I said. Duluth did a great job containing the transition game. The first series they were here in Kalamazoo, other than that weird first period, 10 minutes of the first period in game 1 on Friday. Let me finish the whole thought before you try cutting me off. God.
That's what I'm here for.
So they'll have to try and see if they can do that. Hopefully for Duluth fans in general, like, this is not they don't suffer a hangover. Sometimes when you beat a conference opponent or a rival, in-state rival opponent like that, and you have the added pressure of them being the number one, it might make that moment a little too big, and then you have that hangover coming into the next game. They're another team who's been extremely inconsistent. I don't know that they've really figured out their goaltender situation. Their power play was deadly this week, so that's something. But this is the time that we do see Duluth really make strides and take a step towards being a Duluth team that we're used to seeing. I mean, and there's still a possibility. There's 8 games left. So I mean,
we have the whole
all of February.
Yeah, all of February.
And the first week of March, but I think there's like an off weekend for everybody there. But I think it's
the first week. Well, the first week of March is the first round.
No.
Oh no, never mind. It's 1 week after that.
Yes.
My bad. I was talking about it earlier today, and I threw myself off. But yeah, and beating St. Cloud, that's a big thing, but I am worried, at least for the Friday game when Western comes here.
And then McAllister being shut down the last few games. I mean, that's kind of to be expected. He's a freshman. Yeah, he did come from the AJHL, played a ton of games up in Canada, but I think we're seeing that teams are adjusting to him a little bit. He's having to make adjustments to their adjustments. It's definitely a different game. Teams are playing a lot heavier and trying to take space away from Western. So I mean, they've had dips. That whole line has had a couple dips. I mean, we've been shut out 3 times. So in general, that first line has had its ups and downs this year, more ups than downs. And they've always kind of responded great after a difficult game. I mean, the last time we were shut out by North Dakota, we went on a 7-game win streak. And even shook off the first shutout to Notre Dame pretty well. I think that's who. I think those are the three shutouts we've suffered. But either way, I mean, ebbs and flows to the season. He's still a super smart kid. He's still understanding. I think getting he's learning that he can take more shots, and we're starting to see his shot develop a little bit more. But I think a lot of teams are noticing that he's pass first and cutting that off too. And so if he can develop more of a shot or be more dangerous in a couple situations, I think his production will go back up a little bit. And Western has a um pretty friendly schedule the rest of the way. Other than a couple, I mean, about 50% of it potentially, depending on how series go. But we've got Colorado still at home. We've got one more series with Miami in Oxford, Ohio, Duluth, and Denver, and those could be, all of those games are going to be big, but there's still plenty of opportunity to make up some points and play some really great hockey and get a little bit higher in the NCHC standings. But like we just kind of said, like it's not really important to be those top teams, and it's just win the games that you need to win. Try and win the tournament and get to the big show. So
Yeah, and I think one disadvantage that Ryan McAllister runs into now is teams are noticing him, and they've noticed him throughout the whole year, where currently Ben Steves for UMD, teams are just starting to notice him because he scored a hat trick on Friday against St. Cloud. And so,
Natty Hattie power play hat trick.
Yeah, which I didn't even realize until I looked at it after. Um, he's coming on late versus McAllister, who's been a dominant force throughout the whole year. So now it's a late season adjustment to teams that may not have seen him, where there's a lot of film on what McAllister has done, and they can adjust to him and know what his tendencies are. So I think that's going to be fun to watch this coming weekend. Is the dynamics of the freshmen.
Yeah, I mean everybody wants to try and shut down that top Western line, but we saw Friday, like even if you shut down that top Western line, there's still 20 other guys, 18 other guys on the team, 17 other guys on the team, who are just as capable of putting up points and scoring quick goals. I mean, it was 4-1 by the end of the first period Friday night. So yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Try and stop that first line. There's three more right behind it that know how to score and play the game. I think that's another thing that makes this Western team dangerous if we're playing and running the way that we should. We just ran into a hot goaltender on Saturday, and there's really not much you can do about that. But at the same time, like we've got to be more cognizant of taking away a goaltender like that's eyes, making more of an effort to get to the net and play a little bit grimier than we do sometimes. Like yes, the pretty passes and the breakaways are great, but there's times in a game where you've got to be that heavy body, that big body in front and chip and push and fight for goals as opposed to just beating a goalie glove side.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do want to talk about Nebraska Omaha a little bit. They don't do themselves any favors. Like they just finally hit the rankings. They're 19th in the USCHO. They're 16th in the USA Today. They're 17th in the pairwise. And this is a good team. I think they're a little bit underrated, but it's due to their own fault, not the fault of their play. But they just don't schedule their non-conference in a way that's advantageous to them. So they have to live and die by what they do in the conference. And we're seeing it sort of pay off here. But they're a team who's also been extremely inconsistent, both in non-conference play and in the conference.
Yeah, I think I would say they're more inconsistent than Miami, because Miami's more consistently bad than they are good. in Omaha, you just never know what you're gonna get with that team on a game to game basis. And I it's tough because they play in such a tough conference. I I've always thought they're a little bit underrated for what they can do.
So
But again, they don't do themselves any favors because they don't win the games that they probably should. And they just get hammered in the games that they should probably lose closely, but but they win games that they should probably get hammered in. It just doesn't make sense on what they do.
so here's their schedule this year. I'm just gonna go by result: split, sweep, swept by, or other result. Their first series, Niagara, they get swept by Niagara, who's not ranked. They go up to Sault Ste. Marie and play Lake Superior State. They have a win and a tie. They play Alaska Fairbanks, not ranked, split the series. They go out to Long Island, sweep Long Island, not ranked. Lose in a tie against the number 10 North Dakota at the time, shootout win. They split with 20 ranked North Dakota. They split with Denver, who's number 1 at the time, sweep a number 14 Western, get swept by a not ranked Colorado College, split with an unranked St. Lawrence over the holiday, come back, sweep a not ranked North Dakota, sweep a not ranked Miami, and split with the number 9 ranked team, Western Michigan. I mean, your non-conference schedule is not helping your cause, and then to know, split with the number 1 team, sweep the number 14 team, but then to lose to an, and then go 3 out of 4 against 2 non-ranked opponents. Like that's not helping your cause if you're trying to make an at-large bid.
I I mean, I just don't know. I I have to look at the standings here, but I don't know how in the hell you get swept by Niagara and by St. Lawrence, and you can still beat some of these teams that you're beating.
St. Lawrence was a split.
Oh,
It
St. Lawrence was a split.
was a 1-2 loss in overtime and then a 5-2 win.
Oh, St. Lawrence is still. I mean, they're 1, 2, 3, 4. They're fifth in the ECAC. But again, that's not.
That was
I mean,
after being.
You have Quinnipiac, and that's about it. That you have. There's some teams that are ranked, but that's rankings are rankings. We have our bias, they have their bias. It's all who you play.
Yeah.
But just getting swept by a Niagara team who they might surprise you, but if you're, I mean, uh, I don't know. I can't figure them out.
Yeah, so they end up having to play really, really well in the conference, which we know is a tough ask, to get any kind of notice, to get a potential at-large bid. So really they're hoping that they're going to win the conference tournament, which they have to make it to St. Paul to do, and they've never done that.
And right now, you said they were swept by Colorado College,
Yeah, they were swept by Colorado College right at the
and
end of the first half of the season.
that's who they would play if the season were to end today. So that's not an easy task at all.
And they've got
You
Colorado College coming up at home February 10th and 11th.
Yeah, they're 2 points out of first, but they're gonna if which it's all not gonna stay the same. But if it were to end today, they'd be playing a team that swept them at the end of the first half. Now you got to win 2 out of the 3.
Yeah.
Well, that's not easy by any means.
Yeah,
I
like if I'm an Omaha fan, like I want my team to schedule a little bit tougher non-conference schedule to at least give us a leg up and to help us out a little bit, so we're not always having to essentially do what we've never done. Like I said, they've never won a playoff series.
and it's one of those things where they have to build some they have to build a reputation, because there are teams that are not going to want to schedule them, just be like, oh, well, you're Omaha. You haven't won a playoff series. You haven't done this. You haven't done that. But you can't be scheduling Niagara and St. Lawrence and Long Island and Fairbanks. And yeah, you can maybe do one series of those teams, but you can't have your whole non-conference schedule be that where and, and I get it. It's tough because there are those lower teams that need games, but you look at what North Dakota schedules, you look at what UMD schedules, you look at
Well, I mean, here's
um
here's here's what Denver scheduled. So they were the defending national champions.
yeah,
Everybody's either going to want to play them or they're going to want to stay away from them. They
yep,
have the Icebreaker tournament, which had Notre Dame and Maine. I believe Air Force was the other host of the tournament, so it wasn't an actual tournament style. Um,
yeah,
then they had Massachusetts and Providence, Arizona State and Lindenwood, and Alaska Fairbanks. I mean, that's a pretty even schedule when you're the number one team in the country. You're the defending national champions.
mhm.
You've got a couple teams on the up and up in Arizona State and Providence, both on the come up. You've got
And UMass
established,
is yeah,
a couple established historically decent teams in Notre Dame and Massachusetts.
and
Um,
UMass is not that far removed from a national championship either.
yeah, you've got the newcomer in Lindenwood, and you've got a team that's trying to reestablish themselves in Alaska Fairbanks. It's a pretty balanced schedule, knowing that you're going to compete week in and week out in your conference schedule. It's a schedule that prepares you for the conference and doesn't hurt you in the rankings. If anything, it proves that, hey, we're playing tough teams, whether they're conference games or not.
And I think the one thing that hurts, um, but you can make this argument for Denver too, but depending on who you play, Omaha. So like UMD, we have Mankato, we have Bemidji, we have Minnesota. We can schedule those non-conference games and they're going to be tough teams. You look at Minnesota right now; they're the number one team in the country. We can schedule those games, and they're always going to be there. It's not going to hurt us. Where Omaha, they don't have that in-state rivalry. Where Western, you can have Tech, you can have um, Ferris when Ferris is good. You have Michigan, you have Michigan State. You have those non-conference opponents to schedule, and you're always going to have them there. And it's kind of that traditional conference rivalry, quote unquote, or old conference rivalry, in-state rivalry. And I just Omaha gets stuck in a weird position. They just have to figure out how Arizona State would be a perfect team for them to play because ASU is independent. Get them in there. Steal them away from a Denver, steal them away from uh, a UMD, a North Dakota, one of the perennial programs. Um, go for a BC or a BU that needs a non-conference game to, maybe establish themselves again. Like, hey, we're still relevant, even though they really aren't. The Big Ten right now, they're doing really well. Get a Big Ten opponent. Don't go for just the mid tier because right now the NCHC they have all the power. They do. And if you were smart, you'd be like, "Oh, you want to play against a team in the best conference in the nation? Come on, let's do it.
Yeah.
We'll do it. And if you beat them, go for it." The only national champion that's that's happened in last, I don't know, what, 6 years is UMass. Otherwise, it's been NCHC teams. You have so much pull over what other conferences are doing as far as scheduling. Use that power. Don't just be like, oh, we're going to play, you know, Dartmouth or whoever. Yeah, you can schedule them for one series, but balance it out.
Yeah. I mean, Western does a pretty good job of scheduling former conference opponents from the old CCHA days. I was just looking at it, but I closed it. And it's still even a healthy mix of quote unquote lower tier teams versus, teams that have some sort of history. You have Alaska Anchorage. They're trying to rebuild their program. Ferris,
Hmm.
former CCHA team, who's made a couple deep runs in the not so distant past. Bowling Green, who's kind of been on the up and up, at least the last couple of years. They've improved. They're now a part of the new CCHA. Notre Dame, Michigan. We played Northeastern there in Nashville.
Yeah,
That was a team that
Nashville.
we
Yep.
that we met in the NCAA tournament last year. We had the GLI this year. Like things like that help build your status. It's all about, not necessarily just the wins and the losses, but it's that strength of schedule thing that you hear about. Um,
Hmm.
Especially when you're talking about like the football playoffs and stuff like that. Like that stuff translates to the other sports. I mean, how often have we looked at somebody winning an award and been like, I mean, you beat this team. Like, let's calm down a little bit. Let's pump the brakes on maybe saying that you were the best goaltender in the conference when you beat a team that only has 2 wins all year. We've made those comments, even though you still have to go out and play those games and win those games. Certain wins mean more than others, and Omaha has not done themselves any favors when they schedule an opponent like a Long Island who is still struggling. Yes, they're a new team; they've got to get out there and get some experience, but you can't schedule your entire non-conference schedule that way and hope to be, unless you go undefeated in your non-conference schedule. It's going to be real hard to climb out of the rankings.
Well, and that's the thing too. You're not.
And anytime you lose to one of those teams, it's going to hit you harder than whether you lose by 8 or you lose by 1.
Right. It's not you're not like an Alabama in football, and you're scheduling Alabama A&T in the middle of the season. Hi, Briz. We have a special guest. Oh, Jesus. But you're not scheduling like your Alabama A&T in the middle of the season, but it's you're gonna beat them, and I'm sorry. Oh, it Jesus. Let me rethink my thoughts. So Omaha, they're not an Alabama where if you're going to schedule a weaker non-conference opponent, it's not going to matter much because you're going to win. You're more of like well, if you win, it doesn't hurt you, but if you lose, it's like Michigan losing to Appalachian State that one year.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't help you unless you go undefeated and you're not that confident that you're going to win, because they shouldn't be that confident that they're going to win these non-conference games because they don't play super confident. But if you go and say they schedule the University of Minnesota, I'm just using them as an example as being the number 1 team right now. You're you're gonna so you get swept. Okay, you got swept by the number 1 team in the nation. You win. Well, shit, you just swept the number 1 team in the nation. That's only going to help you, and they need to schedule a little bit tougher. I'm sorry that was a lot more effort to say
Yeah.
what I was going to say, but
Let's see. Let's wrap up the week with the players of the week. We did get to a few of them. The other ones are Reese Gaber, forward for North Dakota, who we mentioned earlier, picked up a hat trick, ending their drought. A couple Bulldogs make the list as the defenseman of the week is Wyatt Kaiser. Can he play any more inconsistent as well? Like his highs are highs. He's a player of the week, His lows are lows. He has
I
to take a suspension and sit out a game. Just polar opposites on the way that dude plays the game. Figure it out. Meet it somewhere in the middle. More
don't
players of the
even get
week
me started.
than suspensions, though. Okay.
Don't get me started on him.
Hey, he's not Tyler Clevin, who picked up his third misconduct and third suspension, I believe, of the year. He had to sat out the Saturday game between
Yeah.
North Dakota and Miami. Also, you had
We know somebody that we used to play Chell with that would really applaud him for that.
yeah. You had the rookie of the week in Ben Steves, who we said had the natty hattie all power play goals in the Friday game, as UMD went 4 for 7 on the power play. They followed that up with 2 for 3 on Saturday. 6 different Bulldogs scoring on Saturday. We have 2 goaltenders of the week. Drew DeRitter, who we said shut out Miami. The thing that makes his shutout on Saturday more impressive is North Dakota only had 17 skaters out there. Due to the suspension and some injury issues, they did not have a full complement of skaters Saturday night. Still got the win. Still posted the shutout. And a big win, too. 8 goals with only 17 skaters. Pretty impressive. And he shares goalie of the week with, I believe, freshman from Slovakia, Simon Latkozy, who was able to split the weekend or come in relief on Friday, allow 2 goals Friday, and keep the Broncos off the board Saturday to split the weekend for Nebraska with Western Michigan. So those are your players of the week.
And I do think the shutouts played a factor into that. You know, not that
I will say that Western or Simon's shutout of Western is why he is a goaltender of the week. I think he faced like 40 shots on goal Saturday, saved them all. The fact that DeRider did get a sweep of Miami and did so with a shortened bench on Saturday. I would almost lean that you give DeRider probably the whole thing, but it is impressive.
Also, we did split goalies Stay and Thiessen. I wasn't quite sure who played on Saturday. I was at Hockey Day, Minnesota, so I did not watch the game, so I didn't know who played in net until just now. But we did split goaltenders because otherwise I was gonna say, oh, if you beat the number 1 team in the country, yeah, you didn't get the shutout, but you should be up for consideration.
You did give up 6 goals on the weekend too, though.
Yeah, we did give up 6 goals on the weekend.
Tough look. But each goalie only gave up 3. So Simon only gave up 2 all weekend on the number 1 offense in the country. Actually, number 2 now because the team ahead of them has played significantly less games and doesn't really count. Let's be honest.
Who's the team ahead of you?
Who was it? Like, I want to say it was Stone something.
Stone Sour? Isn't there? Aren't they a band?
Is it Stone something? Listen. Don't.
No, I was making a joke.
Don't you with me right
it's
now?
It's like Stone Hill, who they just went. They're just full D1 this year as well. I think they're playing like a part-time schedule like Penn State and Arizona State did.
Somebody had it listed, but it's back to being Western on the NCAA page. So that's all that really matters.
I think that's probably because they're not playing a full Division I schedule.
Yeah.
I know what team you're talking about, and this is their first year. They went full Division I, but for all sports, but their hockey program is not full Division I. It's doing the Arizona State model, which Penn State followed. Now a lot of teams are doing. Lindenwood followed that same model where you kind of do a hybrid for a year or two, and then you get into the full Division I because you need to give yourself time to recruit. What are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad way to do it. We're seeing Arizona State starting to have a little bit more success here and there because of
I
it.
Yeah, I think it's a fine way to do it.
Penn
It
State has
doesn't bother me, especially because
shown up to be.
they're not gonna be tournament eligible, just like, I think St. Thomas isn't tournament eligible until at least next year, maybe 2 years from now, going full Division One. But if you're not gonna be tournament eligible, why not just kinda do the hybrid and give yourself a chance to get that many more Division One recruits that you think are gonna be able to play at this level and then move forward.
Yeah.
It's a good model, and like you said, Arizona State is proving it.
And then, like I said, we got so let's move into this weekend. It's a short schedule of only 4 games. No, 5 games total.
Yeah, 5 games.
Uh,
Chris.
St. Cloud will host Miami, and Duluth will host Western Michigan. And then we get the second game on Saturday of Colorado Denver, this time at Colorado College.
Well, I think we should, see, I think we should talk about Denver CC, then Miami and St. Cloud, and then, since it's our 2 teams, talk about Western and UMD, that series last, just because that's our 2 teams.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, I think it's going to be kind of. I think it's going to be another tight game for Colorado and Denver.
Mhm.
I don't know that I see their shutout streak of the Tigers really lasting much longer, especially if Denver takes some penalties. That if that power play gets going, that power play can definitely make the difference in the game. Um,
Yeah, and especially in Colorado Springs at Colorado College's home rink, uh, they've built a good atmosphere there since last year. Especially, last year was a little iffy, people wanting to go out and whatever. This year, from what I've seen, uh, the Tigers fans are really showing up. They're really making it, and the student section, they're really making it a home atmosphere. And Denver, they've had their struggles. I don't like that a conference game was at a neutral site last weekend, that they were playing at Ball Arena. Um, yeah, it's close enough for both schools, but I don't like that. It should be home and home. That's what it should be. Each team should, what are you doing? There should be a home ice advantage for both teams for 2 games apiece.
I mean, Michigan and Michigan State play in Detroit at least one game a
Well,
year, so
they can go screw themselves. I don't care about them.
I don't really have an issue with it.
Um, but I think this benefits Colorado College, and they're going to be a little pissed off from last week losing 2-0, especially with how well Umberco played. He was the only reason that it was 2-0.
Yeah.
He really was. They were outplayed basically the whole game, and then they could not stay out of the box. It was power play after power play for Denver.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
you're with the way Colorado College is set up is they need to draw more penalties and get Hunter McCowan out there with the man advantage, get someone screening Magnus and finally snap that shutout streak for them to really make some noise here in the final push of the last month of the season.
yeah, I like Colorado College to gain some points in the standings, at least with this game. Now, might it matter? Yeah, might it not? Yeah, it all depends on what other teams do. But I kind of like Colorado College in this game.
I mean, I would say that, but their their history is not very good against Denver.
It's not very good, but I just
It's about
have
as their recent history is about as good as Western and Miami. Just you kind of know who's winning that one. Um,
I just have a little bit of CC. They're changing it, and so like you hear about it all the time, the culture, but they're changing their culture a little bit, and I have a little more faith in them than I would have even a year ago.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have more faith in them than I did a year ago, but I don't know that their front. I have more faith in their goalie than I do their front end right now. They've got to pick that up
Yeah.
and be more consistent, especially 5-on-5.
Yeah, 5 on 5 is gonna be the key. It's not so much the special teams, it's gonna be even strength.
I'm gonna keep an eye on this one because we play both of these teams in the next couple of weekends. We host Colorado College and then Denver before heading to Oxford for Miami for the last series of the year. But Miami, speaking of Miami, they're making the trip to Minnesota to play the St. Cloud Huskies.
RIP Miami.
You say that, but Miami has a shutout win over St. Cloud this year, early in the year. They beat St. Cloud 5-0. The one thing I will say is St. Cloud is coming off of a series which I think they expected to win. I think a lot of people expected them to win uh, at Minnesota Duluth. Being the number one team in the country, they fell, I think, to fourth, fifth.
5th. They're 5th in the poll now.
I mean, they took a little bit of a tumble. You need to make adjustments, but you don't want the pendulum to swing too far, and you don't want to overlook a Miami team that you should be able to beat. Everybody else is beating them. But again, it comes down to how much is Miami able to push back too. They're a team that's coming off of a pretty long, pretty substantial losing streak here lately. Let's see exactly what it is. And you're hoping something's going to change for them too. Having been, I want to say they've been swept in like the last 3 series, but it might even be more than that.
Oh,
One,
while you're looking
two,
that up, I'm gonna
no,
I'll
again,
make my point.
they're on a
Or
7-game losing streak. Their last win was against Niagara on December 30th.
so
And they've scored 2 goals. No, they've scored 6 goals in those 7 losses. But the majority of those came in that first loss, 4-5.
that's not a good average.
Since the return to NCHC play, they've scored 2 goals, been shut out 4 times, and allowed 32 goals.
Good God.
Did I do that right? 20 and 12. Yeah, 32. 32 goals to 30. They've been outscored 32-2 since conference play restarted.
And so my thought here is
Dear Lord.
I don't think St. Cloud is going to overlook them. They know this is a team that they should beat, and they're going to be pissed off getting swept by UMD, as they should be. This is not a good UMD team. Shush. I have dogs whining now.
That's my cat is whining also.
This is not a good UMD team. It's getting better. They played better, but St. Cloud was not disciplined, allowing 3 goals on a 5-minute major, which was a dumb play. There was no way they should have taken that major. It was just dumb. Allowing 3 goals on a major. What did you say? UMD was 6 for 10 on the power play this weekend.
Yeah,
overall.
on the weekend. Yeah, on the whole weekend.
Yeah. They should be more disciplined. Brett Larson's going to lay into them. They shouldn't take Miami lightly. I don't think they will. Miami is just going to be on the brunt end of a flaming spear that is going to tear through them like a hot knife through butter. And honestly, I hope Miami shocks me, but I just think these kids are gonna be so pissed off, and they're just gonna wanna kill everything in sight and beat the living hell out of Miami.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
And
I'm gonna predict a St. Cloud sweep, but I'm just saying that of the two conference wins that Miami has this year, one is over St. Cloud and one is over North Dakota.
the one thing that I will question is, um, Castor being pulled on Friday. Now, did he play on Saturday? Um, yeah, Castor did play on Saturday. But again, I don't know. Oh no, wait, that is Friday's game. The hell, my bad. Hang on, 1 second.
Dude,
Nope,
this is the
it's not.
production value you come here for, folks. Right
Yep,
here. Ba, ba, da, ba.
these dogs want dinner. That's the problem.
What are you looking for?
Uh, I'm looking for who played in net for so Stayskull Bassie played. Okay, so they did split. Both teams split. Um, I'm just with Bassie going in on Friday and then playing Saturday. I don't know how St. Cloud's gonna play the goaltender situation. It is Castor gonna come back in and come back in with confidence, or is he going to be a little shaken being pulled against UMD
I mean,
versus Bassie, who got left in the game even though he gave up 5 goals.
they've he's been pulled in other games too, and they've gone right back. They've been really playing that two goalie system. I believe he was pulled in the Western Series as well uh, earlier this year, and then started right back up the next weekend. So I mean, I don't know that it really matters to them. He has also kind of been the goalie who's taken the brunt of the St. Cloud losses. Bassie's been
Hmm.
a little bit better, at least in the win loss department. And this is honestly a decent series for both of them to kind of get right and to get back on track.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's if St. Cloud wins, I think they're gonna just be fine. It's their get right series. If they lose even one of these games, I think that's pretty devastating to them, to lose to Miami. Just because Miami having 7 points in the conference. Um, no offense to Miami, but they're not good.
They're really not. And then Western makes the trip to Duluth. Friday's game is on the big network. That is the CBS Sports Network game. Excuse you.
It's enough.
Um, Honestly, this might be the best CBS Sports game that we've had so far this year.
Um, I think Denver, North Dakota, though they put on one hell of a show.
I don't think they haven't been they weren't
I
on
thought
CBS
no,
yet.
or no, it was St. Cloud and Western. That's what it was.
That one was not
There was one
on
CBS
CBS
one.
Sports yet. This is the third. Is this the third weekend of CBS Sports? They had the non-conference St. Cloud, Minnesota game.
Oh, that was the one. That's the one.
They
I knew there was a
had
good team. North Dakota, Miami.
North Dakota, Miami this week, which was not anything great. Who did they have? I think they skipped a week
They did
somewhere.
skip a week. Yeah. They skipped the week right before North Dakota, Miami.
They,
So I think this is the third one.
yeah, third or fourth. Either way. But yeah, I think so far of the games that have been scheduled on CBS Sports Network, I think this one's actually the better one. Did they
And
have?
then I will
Did
be
they have
at
Denver St. Cloud,
that that's
or was it the week they skipped, which was stupid if they skipped it?
let's see. Hang on. And oh, they had UMD Omaha.
Yeah,
It, so this is week number 4.
yeah. This one's the best one then.
And actually the only other, well, they have 2 good ones at the end. They have Denver and Western and then
Ooh,
CC at Denver.
Denver Western's going to be a good one.
But
They have St. Cloud,
I
North
will
Dakota next there as well in there.
eh,
That could be an okay one.
it's a rivalry game. That's about it.
North Dakota,
But
Denver.
I will be at the Saturday game with my parents, uh, and potentially my brother and his girlfriend. Uh, it I'm excited for that one. Like, I'm just excited for that series, partly because I've seen Western play already, um, and I haven't seen UMD play live, but coming off a week that we swept the number 1 team, we alluded to it earlier. I am a little bit concerned about the hangover bit, especially going against the top offense in the country. But that being said, St. Cloud is a very potent offense, and we were able to mostly shut them down. They still did score 6 on the weekend, which isn't great, on 3 on each of our goaltenders. Uh, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And I even told my parents, I said, even if UMD completely sucks, you're going to watch a really fun Western team play in this game, especially the top line. But with Ben Steves coming on, Wyatt Kaiser actually having a good series and not clobbering somebody in the face or getting kicked out for any reason, um, it should be a pretty good game and a pretty good series and a pretty close matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I predicted it's going to be similar to what we saw in the first matchup between these two teams here in Kalamazoo. I don't think we're going to see quite as an explosive first 10 minutes to the game. I mean, if you guys want to go
I,
ahead and put one in your
nope,
own net
don't
again,
even
that's
say it. Don't
fine.
even say it.
I've already said it. Bounce it off your own goalie. That's fine. We appreciated that. We had no business really being in that game the way we played. But we did come back this Saturday and put up 5 on you guys. So suck on that one. Really, the thing is Western's just gonna have to make sure that they get their transition game going. They can't get caught in their own defensive zone. If they do establish some offensive time, they've got to get a body in front of a goaltender and take away his eyes. Um, play their style of hockey that we've seen. It's been successful. If trying your best to stay out of the box because our PK has been kind of not great. I think a lot of that is just the way our defense is set up. It's the same on the power play. Uh, we just we get in our own way defensively more than we are benefit to ourselves if our defense is playing poorly. Cameron Rowe has been playing actually really really well since coming back from the winter breaks.
I think it goes both ways, but especially for Western on UMD. If you get eyes in front of our goalie, we're gonna struggle. Uh, Cam definitely, if you get traffic in front of him, he struggles some. But even with Thiessen on Friday, he let in a weak goal, a really weak goal. So if you take his eyes away, he can't stop some normal ones. If you take his eyes away, it's not going to be not going to end up well for my dogs.
I'm thinking I might do a watch along Saturday if there's no movement in the baby region of my life.
If you do a watch along, I'll do my best to comment on my phone as I will be in the stands at the game.
I'm gonna sideline report in the intermission. Uh,
I can do that.
Potentially, if there's no baby by then, I will potentially watch along with that one. I might be able to swing both of them, but Friday I don't leave work. That's in 8:30 start time. I like to usually hang out with my wife for a little while when I get home. I doubt I'll do the Friday one. I'll probably just watch it by myself and tweet here and there for that one. But I might do another watch along for the Western Duluth game. We'll see what happens. I think we covered everything.
I think so too.
We got
And I
players of the
have
week. We got last series. We got future series. Done.
and I have two dogs whining because they are hungry and there is a certain thing that I can give them and they're not making, as you can see by the tail going across my screen, they're not making things easy. They're getting a little rambunctious.
Think all that's left to do. Actually, I do want to say thank you to all the people who participated in the poll this week. I believe it was our largest result. Um, Significantly more Western fans than anybody else. Maybe there's some Nebraska fans thrown in there, but Western received the 90% of the 41 votes.
Dang, 41?
Yep. Second
Oh,
was
thank you everyone.
the Colorado College Denver series. Received 4.5, no, almost 5% of the vote. And then
That was the one that I voted for.
St. Cloud and UMD, I think, received one vote, and UND Miami also received one vote. So, thank you to everybody who voted for those. There will be a new one out this Thursday at some point when I remember to do it when I'm on my lunch break from my job that pays the bills.
I will yell at you for that.
Um, oh, remember to do the YouTubey things like, subscribe, don't like, whatever. Tell people that you listen to it or not. I mean, if you're embarrassed that you do, that's fine. Understandable.
I'm embarrassed that I'm on this, so it's fine. Wes is embarrassed by me
Yes, that part is true. Um,
in more levels than we need to go into.
but I think that's it. Leave a comment. Don't leave a comment. Whatever. There's a couple contributors who like to comment on a pretty weekly basis. We like to thank them for engaging in the conversation and interacting with us. It's greatly appreciated. I do try to jump in there when I
Yeah.
remember to check it. Again, when I can sneak away from my at work responsibilities to do so. Shh, don't tell anybody. Um, hey, you just got to find a job that pays you to do what you love, even if it's not necessarily the things they're paying you to do. Besides the point, they're paying me to do what I love to do. So that's the win. Good luck to all the teams playing this weekend. A little less luck to Minnesota Duluth, a little more luck to Western. I can do what I want. I got the power over here. I can mute you if I need to. And
That's
that,
fine. I have Ahsoka. I have the most beautiful mascot ever.
and I think only one thing left to say. Pucks.net, good things happen like goal horns and fight songs. So until the next episode, enjoy your hockey games. Talk about them on the Twitters or in the comments. And we will talk to you in the next episode. Have a good one, everybody. And enjoy this outro, intro mix thing that we got going on here. Peace out.